Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This is Motivation for Young Christians. Welcome back, welcome back.
Today you guys are going to be watching the clip for my exaltation that I did.
Alright guys, so right now we just meet to the Church for Youth Revival, and we're going to be catching some of the footage and then me doing the exaltation. So I'll make sure you guys see that. Let's get it, let's go.
All the loved ones I've lost over these last couple of months. And in the midst of that experience, I became very disconnected. And then I was always wondering to God every month, like, who else am I gonna lose? Because it's like every single month there was somebody going. I was like, God, who's going next? And during that time, I drew very far away. I drew so far away that I became comfortable. I became comfortable not reading my word daily. I became comfortable not talking to God daily. I became comfortable not hearing his word. I became comfortable not attending church online. And lastly, I became comfortable not believing. I was so comfortable to a point where I was disconnected. And I was more focused on the hurt, the pain, the trials, the tribulation that I've been going through, instead of focusing on the key things. I was just focused on God. Why me? Why do everybody have to die around me? Why do I have to go through this? Like, everything was just going so good in life, God. Why me? Why me? In Ezekiel chapter 37, verses 3 through 5, it says, "Then he asked me, Son of man, can these bones become living people again? O servant Lord." I reply, "You alone know the answer to that." Then he said to me, "Speak a prophetic message to these bones and say, dry bones, listen to the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Look, I'm going to put breath into you and make you live again." And I was like the dry bones because I needed God to breathe into me, to make me just feel living again, because I was such at a low point. And during my time of disconnection is when I realized that I had to bring dead things back to life. I had to bring talking to God on a daily basis back to life. I had to bring praying back to life. I had to bring hearing his word back to life. I had to bring believing back to life. And I had to bring my faith of knowing what God can do back to life. And because I had to abandon all of these things to where they became dead, and I needed God's help. In Ezekiel chapter 37, verses 9 through 10, it says, "Then he said to me, speak a prophetic message to the wind, son of man. Speak a prophetic message and say that this is what the servant Lord says. Come, O breath from the winds, from the four winds. Breathe into these dead bodies so they may live again." So I spoke the message as he commanded me, and breathed into their bodies. They all came to life and stood up on their feet, a great army. And in these last 2 months, God has just been breathing into my life. And I'm just starting to stand back on my feet according to the scripture and get my way back to that great army according to the scripture. But we shouldn't let the key things, the important things, the essential things in our life becomes dead bones. Because how easy it is for it to become dead bones, it's going to be way even harder to bring it back. So we just have to trust in the Lord, keep faith, and let him guide you so that you don't bring dead bones, so that you don't bring dead things back to life. And I can say that I'm in my process of just re-healing, getting back to the place that I need to be, because the dead bones are coming back to life. Amen.
I'm going to give you guys a little backstory on what led up to me speaking at this youth revival and just give you a more explanation about the exaltation that I gave. So I did this exaltation in the beginning of December. I was approached to do it towards the end of October. So when I first got approached about speaking on this topic at the youth revival, I thought it was a good opportunity because the last time I spoke, June was the last time I did any like sermon or exaltation. So I'm like, you know what, this is good because I'm like, I've been asking God, I want to speak at more events, and stuff like that. So once this opportunity came, I was just saying, yes, God, yes, yes, I thank you so much for this. So as soon as the opportunity came, I jumped right on board to be able to do the exaltation. But in the midst of this, as I explained in my video Wednesday, a lot of stuff was going on at that point. I didn't start writing my exhortation and start writing down what I was going to say for the event until probably until like the direct week of the me doing the exaltation is when I actually went and I started writing. So I basically like ignored it. So after I say yes, I didn't like pay too much attention to the topic. I didn't even pay too much attention to scripture that I was going to speak on, and not like that. I just basically was just doing my own thing. And right as I'm seeing the day approaching, because I made sure I marked the day on my calendar, I see the day approaching. I'm like, okay, so I gotta go start writing this. So I remember it was like a Saturday night. This was leading into the week of me doing the exaltation. So I see the topic, okay, bringing dead things back to life. I'm like, okay. So there's a scripture that goes along with this, and I went and I read the scripture because the person that approached me for doing this, he gave me the scripture and then gave me he was like, read the chapter before, the chapter of, and then the next chapter, just in case you get full understanding. So I went through, I read all three chapters, and I'm like, this don't make sense. I'm like, I'm so confused. How does this scripture relate to the topic of bringing dead things back to life? And so I called them up. I'm like, I was like, I need your help because I need to figure out how does I don't understand or I don't see how this scripture applies to the topic. So on a funny event, they gave me the wrong scripture. So once I got the right scripture and we read through it is when I understand, okay, that's how this scripture applies to the topic. Because I'm like, nah, this makes sense. So we're talking about Ezekiel chapter 37. So as I read through it, I'm seeing how this relates. So as me and my leader is going through and this, I'm now the idea came to my head how this topic relates to my life right now, bringing dead things back to life. So I mentioned how it relates to it, and he was like, "You see, he's like, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You're connecting the dots, and then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna write about that. So for the exaltation of bringing dead things back to life, I talked about these last 8 months and the difficulties I've been through, all the hurt, the pain, all the people that died, all the bad news that came my way. I talked about that. I talked about how these like important and like relevant thing in my life that I did on a daily basis became dead things because as a result of what was going on in my life, I stopped doing it. Like I stopped getting into my Bible. I stopped praying. I stopped like attending church online. Like I really was ultimately I was so disconnected. Um I was just so disconnected with God, with the Bible. I was just all around just so disconnected. And I talked about how I was disconnected and how God gave me the realization of how disconnected I was. So that way I worked on getting those things back. And as as I'm thinking this, I'm kind of like stressing out because I'm like, I got a lot on my table and this exaltation this week. So literally I'm trying to rush. I'm like, I need to hurry up and get this exaltation finished. And I remember I think yeah, the Wednesday. I think I got the exaltation finished either the Wednesday or the Thursday. I probably like the Wednesday, Thursday. I got on the phone call, my leader, and I read the exaltation to him and he loved it. And the key thing that he pointed out to me is that this right here is gonna not only bless people, but then he also showing your vulnerability because I was being like pretty much vulnerable through my exaltation, talking about the things that I've experienced over these last 8 months and how I had to like how stuff became dead things. I had to bring those dead things back to life. So I literally was just going up there talking about what I'm going through and how what I'm going through is related to the topic. So he just pointed out me that's very important. He's like, this is going to touch somebody. And I was a little bit scared going up anytime, not scared, but like nervous. Anytime I do exhortation, anytime I'm doing public speaking, anything like that, I get a little bit nervous because I want to make sure I deliver it right. So going into this, I didn't think I did enough um reading of the exaltation to where I could be more fluent with it when I'm on stage to be able to talk about it. Um so I had to travel the Friday next year. I had to travel down to New York for this. So I traveled to New York. On my way on the bus, I'm reading, I'm going over the exaltation, and then get to church. They went through the whole agenda that they had for the youth revival. Then I went up and I went up, did my I think it was like 5 minutes I did because they gave me like a 5 minutes limit, and I think I did either under 5 minutes or exactly 5 minutes. And after I got on stage, I was just so mad because I didn't feel like I delivered the exaltation the right way. I I didn't feel like I delivered it the right way. I just felt like I was just so stuck in there because literally, as I'm speaking, my hand is shaking. So right now, how I got this mic right here, as I'm holding the mic, my hand is literally like shaking. And I see my hand is shaking, and I know everybody's realizing that my hand is shaking because honestly, I was just so nervous. Like I was over there trying to do the speech, but my hand is literally shaking. I don't think this has ever happened to this bad in my life of doing public speaking. Like my hand was just over there shaking, and I was stuttering on my words. And when it was literally, I was just so mad because I'm like, I did not deliver that speech right. I was just down to myself. I'm like, bro, I ain't do that right. I didn't like. I was just down on myself because I didn't feel like I did my best. But I was like, I should have put more time into reading this and memorizing it. Like I basically did not like that exaltation I did. And it wasn't with the exaltation. I just didn't like the fact that I didn't do enough preparedness and I didn't feel like it came out the right way. But after I got off stage, everybody was congratulating me. And then I remember my leader came over and he was just real proud because going on stage talking about what you're going through, open to people is a hard thing to do. And I don't have a problem to talk about what I'm going through and stuff like that. But I do that in videos behind a computer or like if I'm using my phone to record. So literally I'm in a space by myself, nobody's looking at me, and I just put the content out. So I'm not with that person, I'm not with anybody when they're watching my videos and not like that. So it's easier for me to easily talk about what I'm going through a video because I'm not in front of an audience, I'm not in front of nobody. I'm literally in a room by myself recording. But doing it on stage, you're literally in front of everybody. They got their eyes on you and things like that. And I just got, Lisa said, I got very nervous. And then then God gave me that realization of, no, you did good. And then the people that was congratulating me, was like, you did good. I didn't think I did good, but God told me I did good. And then God brought to my head, like, with the amount of things that you went through throughout these last 8 months, the fact that you went on stage and you did your exhortation and talked about what you're going through and got off the stage is real powerful because you went on stage despite all the challenges, the pain, the hurt, the crying you did. I mean, these last month over these situations that have occurred, you still went on stage and worked. You still went on stage and let God use you. And God pointed that out to me because when I tell you guys, I was not too much of a fan of that exhortation. Well, not the message because the message itself was good. I just feel like I wasn't prepared enough to do that, and I just feel like I wasn't prepared enough to do that. So I was kind of like down on myself. And as I'm rewatching the video, I'm like, instead of be down on myself, I should be proud of myself because the fact that I was able to go on stage and to complete my whole sermon, um, despite the shaky hand, because I'm not sure if you guys can notice in the video, but my hand was shaking, and other people pointed that out to me after I got off stage. I'm like, because I was nervous, and I remember in the beginning of it, which I don't think is included in the video. I talked about how nervous I was because I was honestly nervous but I went ahead and did it. But overall, I went ahead and did it. But instead of down myself, I should have just been proud of myself because I went on stage, and let God use me to talk about this topic. And on the topic side of just bringing dead things back to life, um, it's easy to let things die and become dead things into your life, but it's even harder to bring it back to life. So, like with me being disconnected and no longer in the Bible, no longer talking to God, no longer praying, no longer um attending church online, just being ultimately disconnected. To it was so hard to become connected back. It was so hard to bring those things back to life because I got so accustomed to being disconnected, got so accustomed to not doing those things that it became very hard to to do back those things. And I'm still in the process of bringing those things back to life. They haven't fully come back to life. And I compared it to thing because like those became dead things and I had to bring it back to life. So overall the exaltation was just a powerful exaltation. Overall was a powerful exaltation, and I'll put in description so you guys can see because it was just really a powerful exaltation of um how things became then in my life, and I had to work on bringing them back to life. And it's a real powerful exhortation, and I loved it. I wasn't too much of a fan of my delivery of it, but I can say now I'm just honestly proud of myself being able to go on that stage and say that sermon, despite the challenges, despite the hurt, the pain, and everything that I went through, in this month. I literally went on stage and I was absolutely vulnerable about what I was going through. So I'm just so glad that I was able to complete. I'm so glad that God gave me the opportunity to do it because this is like very important, a very important topic of bringing dead things back to life, and a very important message of don't let nothing go dead or become a dead thing into your life because it would be very hard to bring it back to life. And I can say that I'm so glad that God gave me that realization of those things that became dead thing. I'm so glad that I'm working right now, bringing those things back to life because those are all key elements and key things into my life that's gonna help me to continue to grow. Instead of down on myself, I just congratulate myself to be able to do that. And to God be the glory and all honor, all glory goes to Him for bringing this topic unto my heart. And before we end, I just want to leave this last piece with you guys. This is actually the end um of the sermon that I gave. And I said that in the last 2 months, God have been breathing the air into my life, and I'm starting to stand back on my feet to become that great army. We shouldn't let the key things in our life that are essential become dead things to a point where we have to bring them back to life because it might be easy to let something die, but it's even harder to bring it back to life. Trust in God, keep your faith, and let Him guide you so you don't have to bring dead things back to life. Thank you, church. And that's the key message for today. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. You guys are family, the MFYC family, Motivation for Young Christians family. Love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I will see you for the video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. If you haven't already, like the video, subscribe if you're new. Please turn on your post notification. That way, anytime I upload a video, YouTube will send you a notification. This is Motivation for Young Christian. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.